Hello, y'all, and welcome to finally in episode 2 of Between the Ropes with yours truly, with Leslie, right? So, yes, I am your wise woman, your sage, whatever you may want to call me. That's nice of ATD. And so this episode is going to be called. It's going to be talking about. We're going to talk about the psychology of the wrestling fan, like what we're thinking, why we're thinking it, and so on. So let me get right into it here with this episode. So anything that I talk about with the episode, I'm going to just use my fandom. So I'm going to use the bloodline story. I'm going to use the bloodline and I'm going to use my favorites to help explain it. Okay. So you know what? Everybody says this fake fighting is professional wrestling, right? It's more than that. It's actually, what do we call it, guys? We call it cinema, right? We call it theater. We call it, with ATD, we say with the bloodline story, master us theater. So it's basically for us this powerful, this emotional, this psychological theater, right? That's going on in our heads. So today, I'm going to help us get through all of that emotional theater. We're going to take a tour. Okay. So we're going to talk about the deep and emotional reasons why we as fans are so devoted to this term. If you don't know, you're going to learn. It's called catharsis. We're going to talk about catharsis when it comes to being a wrestling fan. We're going to talk about the power of shared identity, which comes to terms of community and tribalism, and we're going to talk about that in depth. But for those of us that aren't psychology majors, let me define catharsis for you. And yes, I'm reading this from my notes, this definition. It is expressing strong emotion that leads to a feeling of relief, peace, or insight. Okay, so keep that in mind of how that definition relates to us here as being wrestling fans, right? So it can play, guys, it can play on our morality. You know, this idea that we have good guys versus bad guys, good versus evil, baby face versus heel. It can create some positive emotions. It can help us release our emotions. It can come from us. It can give us satisfaction, guaranteed immediately emotional satisfaction, especially when the outcome that we want happens, right? Or when, traditionally, when the baby face prevails or wins. But that's part of the basics, right? So now this may be, if you are like me, a wrestling fan that's a young 47-year-old, but been a wrestling fan since she was a very young 7, 8, 9-year-old, then this may not be for you. You may just find this information a little useful, and you may say, that's me. But if you're a new fan, it may help you understand the business, because there is going to be some terms that if you've watched it for a while, you're going to be like, Leslie, why are we going over this? I know that, right? So we're going to look into the basics. We're just going to simply go beyond, is it real, right? So we're going to go beyond that question. So let's think about this. Let's think about this question. What makes us react with such passion when we know this thing's scripted, right? Why do we react to it so strongly? Why do we get mad to the point to where we want to cuss at the TV? Why do we get so happy that we singing along? We're singing songs for the superstars. We're singing their praises and their name, yada, yada, yada. Thank you, UK fans, by the way. Y'all are awesome for that. Now, one thing that does this for us is called this. It's simply the suspension of disbelief, or guess what? The old word we as wrestling fans have come to learn as kayfabe. And this is agreeing to believe the unbelievable, right? Why? Because we become emotionally engaged in the story. We become cognitively engaged. So it's brain, it's emotions, and we just this ability, this kayfabe, this suspension of disbelief helps us get engaged and really enjoy the story, right? To the point where that's enhanced, that grows for us. Which means we know it's scripted, but we choose, right, to believe that it's real while we watch it. Like, yes, if I recall Back to Hell in a Cell, Jey Uso, Roman Reigns. I really thought in the moment Roman Reigns was beating the heck out of Jey Uso, right? We got mad, we got angry at him, we got sad, and that's just it. But we knew deep down, we still knew it's scripted, but we enjoyed it. We followed through. We were emotional. We were invested. This means we may ignore anything that's illogical in a storyline, because we don't want it to ruin, or we don't want it to lessen the experience, right? I don't want to believe that they cousins and they best friends, because guess what? Right now they in the ring fighting, and he's like getting him. He's getting beaten up, Jay. And you're like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Stop it. Okay. But we know that's the storyline, that obviously to put on that kind of show, their family, their cousins, their best friends. But we would choose to ignore anything that happens because we don't want to ruin our experience, whether it be going to a live event or watching it on TV. So this kayfabe, or suspension of belief, guys, that we have as wrestling fans, it can be similar to those of fans of anyone who watches a superhero movie, a soap opera, or if you still do this now, which I would love to do, and I got to go find me somewhere to go to visit, to watch a play, right? Those audiences that watch those superhero movies, that yell at Victor Newman, those grandmas that are yelling at Victor Newman every weekday on Y&R. If you're not old enough to know who that is, go ask your grandmama, or ask your mama, perhaps, that grew up on Y&R, okay? But nonetheless, we're willing to engage in all these things, even though we know that they're scripted, aka kayfabe, right? So now back to wrestling, of course. We don't necessarily root for a legitimate winner, right? We root for those that we have built an emotional investment in. We root for those that we've not only built an emotional investment in their characters, but also in their storylines. Now, having said all that, as fans, we know it's scripted. I've said that several times already throughout this episode. However, we still appreciate a real effort, right? We understand that it's a choreographed match. It takes effort to do so. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. The athleticism that these guys and girls have, and the danger and like the physical toll on them are very real. Guys, it don't feel good to take a bump, okay? That is very real. You could become really sore. It don't feel good when you run the ropes. Those ropes are not flimsy. They're not soft. They hurt, okay? And if anyone else that's listening is in the business, y'all know what I'm saying. Or if you're training right now, y'all know what I'm saying as well. So as fans that are invested in this business, in this art form, we appreciate it even more for what they do. That's why you will see some of us go out and be like, tell you to act right. They're just doing their job. They're working. Appreciate what they do. Don't give them a hard time over what they do. Now, I want y'all to put this in the comments, since this isn't a live show, or we may come back to it because I'm going to do a part 2 and I'm going to ask y'all some questions. So to join in the part 2, I'm going to need y'all to watch this one, okay? So this statement of, I know it's not real, but the emotions are. The story they're telling makes me feel something. So in the comments, if you are listening, I want y'all to elaborate on that. Like what that means to you, okay? Because their job isn't to make us think it's real. They know that we probably know it's not real, guys, okay? Let's be real. But their job is to make us feel like it's real. Why do you think why do you think, back to that Hell in a Cell match, why do you think we're like, stop it, why are you doing this? Why are you acting this crazy, bro? Why? Because in the moment, it feels real, right? We were like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? Okay, so there are some other psychological drivers that we're going to talk about. And it's going to be the psychological draws, what draws us psychologically in more to wrestling. Now, Aristotle, I wonder if he was a wrestling fan. Okay, because to come up with this concept of catharsis, he had his own concept, right? So I'm just going to read this from my notes because I think it's interesting. Again, I need to know if Aristotle was a wrestling fan when he came up with this. But his concept of catharsis is the purification or purgation of emotions that a spectator experiences while watching a tragedy, but with the positive effect that this has on the audience. Again, catharsis is bringing about comfort, peace, satisfaction. And he said while watching a tragedy. Okay, I don't know about y'all, but I'm going to disagree with Aristotle on the tragedy part, because when my fave is getting beat up, I feel everything but peace. Okay. A younger me that was the huge Shawn Michaels fan, when he got back beat up every week, there was no peace there. I was pissed. Okay. So Aristotle, I don't know what you were thinking when you said a positive effect, but let me say this, it could have been positive because I was still invested, right? I was still invested in the story and in the stories of today that get me feeling all crazy. And what's he talking about? Purification, positive effect. I don't know about that, or perhaps so. So how does this concept of Aristotle's apply to wrestling? Well, seeing the baby face overcome an undefeatable heel. How does this make us feel? Or what about when the heel beats the baby face? Now, I will say this, I am a fan of mostly the heels, of most of the heels. There's a few that just get on my damn nerves. Let me just say it, okay? AKA the vision, as Monty says, the visionary vanguards of destiny, go team go, and all that stuff that she says. Okay. Shout out to Monty. But this was Aristotle's concept. That when the feeling of the baby face overcoming the heel. I wonder what he thought, like we're talking about, when the heel overcomes the baby face. There is nothing peaceful, y'all. Again, there's nothing peaceful. But I am, again, to Aristotle's credit, I'm still invested in the story. And I'm like, waiting for the comeback. That's it, y'all. That's it. We waiting for the comeback of the baby face, right? We waiting for the comeback. When the heel defeats the baby face, we waiting for that comeback. If we are the fan of the baby face, if we're the fan of the heel, we're like, yes, okay. Moving on. So another Another driver that drives us, psychological drivers, is the idea of, y'all, some of y'all ain't gonna like this one, and that's okay, is tribalism. So tribalism and community. So we're going to go, and tribalism doesn't have to be a bad thing, y'all. That's just, we all about our peoples, right? We all about our favorite promotions, our favorite wrestlers. We all about that. So tribalism is basically when you have this strong loyalty to your own group, your own fandom, right? And it's exclusive loyalty. Like that's where as wrestling fans, this is who we support, nothing else. And that it's an us versus them mentality. Roman Empire, you know what we're talking about. Us versus everybody else. There are other fandoms. There are Cody's fans. Do y'all have a name yet? Y'all, okay. Yeah, I don't know. But anyways, you have the Cody fans. Another fandom I love, the Neo Mob. You have, oh gosh, back in the day when she was with WWE, it was the Sasha crew, right? You had that group. You have the group that have dubbed Liv and Dominic, lived on. I don't know, whatever. But see, I'm not interested. So y'all gonna come at me and say it's pronounced this way. It doesn't matter. Again, tribalism. Okay, not bad. That just means we're extremely loyal. The juice boxes, proud member, but not as excessive as some of y'all. I'm just saying. So we had, the Roman Empire. We had the juice boxes. We have the Neo Mob. We have all these Cody fans. I'm gonna be nice. Be nice on this episode, okay? Because some of y'all may be listening. I'm not a fan of your dude, but I'm gonna be nice. And it's not just with individual wrestlers, guys. It's fandoms and tribalism with wrestling promotions. You have WWE tribalist. You have, and don't tell me you don't, AEW tribalist. I'm just saying, guys. Can't we all just get along? Can't we like what we like and not be judged by it? It's 2020. Oh, excuse me. It's 2026. So yes, let's work on that. Okay. As a community. Speaking of community, you have tribalism, but there's also a sense of community, the positive, guys. We meet each other at wrestling events. We meet it at meet and greets, or we meet online and we bond, right? We bond over our favorite promotions, our favorite wrestlers, and or storylines, okay? We wear merch. When y'all go to an event, don't y'all get excited? Like when I wear my Roman shirt to an event, and I get excited. Yes, I get excited when I'm like, dude, they got Roman gear on. There's another Roman fan. Your sense of community. So we wear our merch to support our faves. We chant together. We sing together at shows. Whether it's this person sucks or whether it's this person go, or whether you're da, 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 da. Okay, singing. Okay, it's my point. We form this unique bonds. And I love it, guys. I love it. That's the part of wrestling that I love. We also, now if we've met people online, we can also meet them in real life. We've done that, been there, done that, literally got the t-shirt, right? We come together to form podcasts. Shout out to my sisters of ATD. Shout out to Monty, whom I got to meet last year. We went to Bad Blood together with our friend and a podcast sister at the time, Lauren. We all met in real life, and that was so much fun. like we didn't have the best seats literally, but it's just the coming together and meeting each other and having that experience together. Lauren and I had met before. I took her to a show. We went to a show in Knoxville. It was her first time seeing Roman. It was so fun meeting her and seeing her reaction at that show. But we come together, and guess what? We formed a podcast. But we met online, Twitter Space, online. Shout out and thank you to Roman Reigns, because he was the reason that that's our bond. That's all of our common interests. That's our dude. Man is our dude. So that's what we bonded over. And we talked wrestling, and we were, guess what? Let's form a podcast. Shout out to the back in the day wrestling winos. If you know, you know. We also come together and we form networks. Shout out to Culture Clash Network. If y'all don't know, we all over social media. We have some awesome podcasts. There's Mimi's Morning Show with Evelyn Mimi J. There is Humble Roses podcast. There is Society and Pop Culture 101. There is JB versus the World. There is Getcho podcast. There is Marks with Mike's podcast. There's Sports for You Wrestling and Sports for You. John and Trail also have Sports for You for sports, as we call it at ATD, the sports balls. So they got all your action, not just wrestling, but your football, your basketball, and other sports coverage that they may cover. And we've got several more, so just check that out. Again, networking, see what we do, y'all. And it's been so much fun. You all have been able to see the result of some of that networking. Some of the best times that we've had as ATD has been with our CCN brothers and sisters. Okay. So, but moving on, shout out to CCN and all those podcasts. You all check them out. Okay. Now, in some instances, wrestling companies, they want to figure out, they may gauge our reaction and adjust storylines and elevate certain wrestlers or reject certain wrestlers based on how we feel as an audience, right? This makes us when we see this, it makes us feel heard, and it makes us feel like our voice and our passion matters. Notice I stated some instances, right? But we now see with like TKO, WWE, that is not always the case, okay? I'm not an AEW fan. I don't watch it, so I don't know how they are. I don't know how that works in the indies either. So, but another psychological driver that drives us is now escapism, right? Escapism, wrestling serves as an escape from the real world, guys. I've used this personally a lot in the last couple of years. Wrestling has been my escape from what's going on in my life, and saved me during that time in so many ways. Okay. I could tell stories that if I'm comfortable with later, I may share with you, but they're funny. And again, revolves around wrestling and our favorite family here at ATD. And I may tell some of those stories. So anyways, let's move on. But there's also escapism, again, escapism, but there's also nostalgia. If you're an older fan like me, it's fun. When I meet another older fan or like fans that have done their research and watch older events, it's fun to reminisce about those events. Like if you were an Attitude Era fan, if you were a Ruthless Aggression Era fan as far as WWE goes, if you were in WCW, then the NWO, when they were there, even if you want to go back further, if you were an old NWA fan back in the day, okay? way back in the day. That's where I started, was NWA, being a fan then. But you can reminisce about past wrestling events you've even been to. Like, me and my husband still talk all the time about events that we went to, like old WCW events, like WCW Nitros events, and it brings up smiles and laughter. And some of those wrestlers we saw then have since passed, so it's even a greater sense. What am I trying to say? To reminisce and remember those times and those events and those stars, and even remember how the business was different then, how it was maybe simpler back in the day. You didn't have all this. You still had your house shows. You could go to house shows. You didn't have to worry. You didn't have all this company stuff. You still had celebrities, but it's like, you definitely didn't see all the business side of it. You didn't see Slim Jim plastered in the middle of the ring or on a table. I'm just saying it was different and simpler, okay? But yes, nostalgia. So that's nostalgia and escapism. Another psychological driver, maybe what I'm going to call the meta story, which is basically, guys, the real life drama. I'm going to put this segment right here. I'm going to call it None of My Business, nor is it none of yours, because the real life drama, any rumors, any of their business, real life business decisions behind the scenes, guess what, guys? That's none of my business. None of my business. All right? I definitely don't encourage that. No. I have seen so much stuff, y'all posting personal pictures, y'all saying all this stuff about these ladies and gentlemen's families, y'all getting in the rumors, the real life drama, who's dating who. I don't care who Jay Uso is dating, okay? I don't care. God love him, and I know he's a family dude, and so I don't mean this, but I don't care how many kids Roman has or Jacob has. I wish them well. I wish them to be healthy. But that's none of my business. You know what I'm saying? That's none of my business. I don't care what goes on behind the scenes with the contract. Do I want my faves? Do I want my men's and women's to sign the contracts and stay a little while longer? Yes, but I'm not all up in the deal of the year. I'm like, we miss you, just sign it. And if you don't, that's okay. I'm not going to quit being your fan just because you choose not to renew your contract. Again, guys, the segment is none of my business. Okay. Some of y'all think it's your business to know every single thing about your favorite superstar. It's not. It's not, okay? Now, let me say this, because I don't want to sound like a total douche and a total shrew, okay? You have people that have legit been through some stuff, and that may inspire you. Like, you look at Joe Onowai's journey with, let's just say, with health issues. Overcoming that, a big inspiration. That inspires me. But at the same time, there's a fine line, okay? Like, you can be inspired, like what he's done in his career and how he's overcome those obstacles to be perhaps the biggest star on the planet, in my opinion. 1,316 days. There, I said it. But anywho, back to the situation, back to the subject at hand, there is a fine line. However, having said that, some fans may feel that by cheering your favorite wrestler may translate into supporting them in real life. Yes, if they're going through something, you want to wish them the best. That's just the human thing to do. But it's nothing. It shouldn't be beyond that. Again, I don't care who Jay Uso is dating. I don't care how many kids these ladies and gentlemen have. And that's not being mean. It's just simply what? None of my business. Moving on. This will probably be more for the newer fan. I'm gonna talk about the art of the story, and it's basically like in-ring psychology. In-ring psychology, guys, is what makes up the storyline. That's how they tell the story, right? It's the narrative, it's the storyline that does what? It triggers our reactions. So one part of this story, you have basically the story arc. Okay, and this is the match, how the match is structured, how a match tells the in-ring story. First, you have the opening. The opening, yes. Let me do it traditionally. Okay, let me just simplify it for the new fans. Babyface, heel, right? So the opening, okay, you're going to have them jockeying for position, right? Right. So, and then finally, you may have the heel overtake the babyface in the opening. This is going to do the next thing, generate reaction from the audience, right? Or heat. So that's that's reacting. Good heat, positive heat, yay, yay, or negative heat, boo, boo. A reaction is a reaction, right? So either way, you're going to have the opening, which is going to lead to heat. Then you're going to have a comeback, which in our example, you may have that babyface rally back, right? Rally back. You've had this fight go on and on. You've got the heat, the rally. Now they're rallying back. And then finally, someone has to win. Someone has to win. Something has to happen to finish the finish, right? To finish the match, to finish this part of the storyline with this match. So you're going to have the finish of what? You can have your DQs or disqualification. You can have a count out. You can have a babyface win via pinfall or submission. You can have a heel win via pinfall or submission. And I don't know if I covered everything. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Let's see, DQ, count out. You could have a draw. You could have a time limit draw. You could have, and I think that may be it. But the main thing is, guys, you got to remember, if there's no heat, if there is no pop, that's not good. No reaction is not good. Because you have heat and these other in-ring elements is what builds the tension in the storyline, right? Right. So not only do you have the story, everything in the, not only do you have everything within the story arc, but you also are going to have selling. Okay. So selling is basically like, if I hit you, if we're working a match and I punch you, you're going to make it look like I may have barely touched you, but you're going to make it look like I knocked your tail out. Okay, so it's the art of making the opponent's move look more painful, more impactful. Now, this is another chance for y'all. Again, you got to watch, right? To be able to participate. So this is another chance for y'all to do that. So I'm going to ask you, who are some of wrestling's best sellers and why? And I'm going to tell y'all go watch the show and give me your answers first before I give you mine. Okay? But who are some of wrestling's best sellers and why? Okay? Okay, so another part of the story when you're with this in-ring psychology is the pacing and timing. So if you notice, there are pauses and momentum shifts, and these are used to control the crowd's emotions and reactions. In the promos, they may change the cadence in which they deliver the promo for it to be more impactful, more effective. They may slow down their voice. They may speed up what they're saying. They may use different tones in their voice. Whatever it takes, whatever message they're trying to convey in the storyline, not only to the person they're speaking to, but also to us, right? So you're going to have those pacing and timing, those pauses, those momentum shifts. If you notice in a match, it just don't go, it don't go nonstop action. Okay, you have pauses and you have momentum shifts. And the same person isn't always got the momentum, right? It shifts. So all this is done to make the match more effective, more impactful, and it's to tell the story. Okay. I'm gonna move on to something a little different. I've got some demographics for y'all, and it's like demographics about we'll talk about demographics and some behaviors of wrestling fans. But I'm going to break some of this down for you via gender, age, and race here. So this is pretty neat to me. So the first breakdown we're going to do is gender. And according to research, of course, we know the audience is generally male. But yes, ladies, female viewership is growing. As of late 2023, according to my notes, guys, I'm reading from my notes. According to, as of late 2023, WWE Raw and SmackDown female audiences made up around 36% of the viewership. Of course, that means 64% male. As of late 2023, AEW female audiences made up 32 to 35%. So right now, between those two, you're telling me that more the ladies watch WWE, in which it says here, of course, AEW is primarily a male audience. And of course, Women of Wrestling, or WOW, has the highest female viewership at 41%. As for age, the average age has generally trended older, but the 18 to 49-year-old demographic remains a crucial focus for advertisers. Look at your advertisements during your shows, guys. During like Raw, SmackDown, advertisements that come on the television while we're watching AEW, while we're watching Collision or Dynamite. So in 2017, it was reported that the average age of the WWE audience was reported to be around 47. So no, guys, it's not just for the kids. Us adults enjoy a little wrestling too, okay? And we're making up your audience. So there we go. And if it's 47, that's my generation, and we're probably bringing our kids to the events as well. So not only, that's the thing about wrestling, you go and pass that down to the next generation. Like, I haven't taken mine to an event yet. He's kind of a handful, but it's okay. But he has a favorite, and he watches it every now and then. He loves John Cena, y'all. I don't want to have to tell him he's retired. That makes me sad. But anyways, yes. So that's what they're probably seeing with the increase with the kids, though, because it's going to be this generation, those 40-somethings, those 30-somethings, those 40-somethings, bringing their children and those young kids in their family, nieces, nephews, to events. Okay, so on race and ethnicity, as of late 2023, WWE audiences are diverse, with approximately 25% of the viewers being Black and around 12% being Hispanic. AEW has a lower percentage of Black viewers as compared to WWE, with around 16% and about 11% Hispanic. Women of Wrestling has a notably large percentage of Black viewership at about 31%. I see that probably to have grown. I want to think that we're getting out there and getting more diverse in our fandoms and getting people interested in our business and in this form of sports entertainment that we all love, right? But across all promotions, the percentage of Asian viewers tends to be lower than the general population of wrestling fans. Y'all, tell your Asian friends about wrestling. Introduce them to WWE. Okay? Introduce them to AEW. Having said that, they do have like New Japan, and it's good. It's good over there. It's some of those. I'm going to have to get into some of those other promotions as well, like New Japan and others. But yes, tell your Asian friends about wrestling. We want to see it grow and be diverse, a diverse community. So I did say we were going to mention some more psychological stuff, and we are going to talk about like the underdog psychology. And this is the idea of fans basically turning on a dominant baby face and they root for the heel, right? Example, I'm going to tell you that I'm going to stick to what I know. Roman Reigns' big dog era. It's something, we don't want to talk about that. We don't want to talk about the promos then. We don't want to talk about the big dog era. Because it was a struggle. The struggle was real. So listen to this, and I'm going to ask you all a question afterwards. So when a guy becomes a champion, he is no longer fighting the odds. He's the establishment, and it's human nature to want to see a new challenger. Okay, so the question for y'all, I want to put you in the comments as well. While this is typical, why do some fans still cheer for the champion? You know what? I think that's because if it's our fave and they're the champion, you're going to cheer for them because that's your fave. That's who you support, no matter what, right? So, yes, and even in that, I'm still going to want to see a new challenger because, like, in those 1,316 days that Roman Reigns was champion, I could not have sat 1,316 days and seen him fight the same person week to week to week to week. No ma'ams, no sirs. I would not have done it. It's not that serious for me. So yes, I'm going to still cheer for the champion, but I am going to want to see new challengers to that championship. Just because. And if the champion has a long reign, it's the same thing. I can handle that long reign, but give me different challengers. Have different people step up. And that's the problem I see in the locker room of say, a WWE. You have people sitting in catering that are perfectly capable of helping to carry a championship match. Instead, we get the same people week after week after week after week. Every PLE, make it make sense. Give other people a shot. And then if they don't take advantage of it, that's on them. But why are you paying talent to sit at home or sit in catering when they could be out here entertaining us? I'll get off my soapbox now. So in all this that we've heard, the lasting impact, y'all, wrestling is a shared, charged, emotional experience, right? Everything that we've talked about in this episode, we've talked about what? Catharsis. We've talked about tribalism. We've talked about storytelling, are not just, as we said, not just unique to wrestling or any form of entertainment. It's part of human nature. It's part of our nature, right? Part of the human condition, part of our nature. Let's think about this quote. Wrestling is a mirror. It reflects our love for stories, our need to belong, and our fascination with the battle between good and evil, right? Side note, again, working on that moral compass, right? And that's why, for a lot of us, the emotions are as real as it gets. It's just our investment, right, y'all? Our investment. So, like I said, that's basically what I have for you today. But if you want the follow up, you got to watch, because I'm gonna include y'all, because I've got some questions I want to ask y'all. We're gonna go live with this. If you watch this episode, that would be helpful. Just be prepared to answer, because it's going to be y'all's turn. Okay. So I've got several questions there for you. I can't wait to share them with you. As far as where you can find ATD, you can find us on X at ATD Podcast 23. You can find us on the YouTube, here on the YouTube at capital A, acknowledge the capital D Dynasty. On Instagram, on the gram, you can find us acknowledge _the _dynasty. You can find us on Threads with the same acknowledge the _ dynasty. Find us on the TikTok, acknowledge the dynasty, as well as on Facebook. Guys, I really want to grow this social media. That way, y'all can get what you need. You can know when an episode is going to drop, right? We are at 112 subscribers on the tube of you. And once we get to 500, I'm going to give away a good prize. ATD we don't give sloppy prizes. Okay. And again, me and my sisters, I want my button. Again, you heard me talk about Culture Clash Network. Y'all go support that. Go find Culture Clash across social media. And support those podcasts, those content creators. You have everything from wrestling to sports, to other sports, to pop culture on there and more. So, and y'all, they have some good guests on there, and you never know who's going to show up. Okay, Humble Roses, not too long ago, had Karrion Kross and Scarlett show up. Okay, they just had their Rosies back in December of 2025 and had people pop in. Culture Clash Network, y'all. There you go. But it's been so much fun spending this time with y'all. If you want, please go ahead and go back and listen to the episode. You will, again, part 2. It's going to be live with y'all. Okay. I'm still going to ask the questions, but if you watch, you will sound a little bit more educated. Okay. Watch the episode. But also, don't forget, you hear Monty promote it every week. Buy Monty's book. It's by Monique Vaughn, Vaughan. It's Homecoming, an American royalty novel. She is going to release book 2 next year. She says, do not ask her what book 2 is about if you didn't get book 1, because you got to get 1. You got to get book 1, okay? So I hope you all have had a happy new year. Have a happy new year. Have a fabulous 2026. I'm so excited to tell you, we got so many things coming on. Hopefully, y'all enjoy 2026. I'm going to do it big when it comes to ATD. And I'm sure my 2 sisters are committed to do it big as well. So get ready, strap in, and y'all have a fabulous day, night, afternoon, whatever it may be where you are at. Happy New Year. Happy 2026. Love y'all big. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the support. See you soon.